All right, let's get started. So I'm Qumisha Goss, but you can call me Q. Everyone does, except for my mom. This talk is called A Professional Beginner's Guide to PyCon, Python, and Learning. And your first question is probably, what's a professional beginner, right? That's me. I call myself a professional beginner. I went to my first PyCon in 2015 in Montreal. I had never coded in Python before that. That was my very first introduction to Python. And then I gave a keynote in 2018 after using Python for a couple years and learning to teach with it. And I still felt like, why am I up here talking to people? I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. I was like, I am not a developer and I am so scared, right? And so my journey of being a professional beginner for me was chatting with some computer science people who were like, man, I didn't know this either, right? Having the conversation to know that you never know everything, right? Everyone's always learning. So I say I'm a professional because I've done a lot of things with Python. I've taught other people Python, but there's always more to learn and to stay humble, that professional beginner spirit. So a little bit about me. I'm a librarian, a trained librarian. I taught digital literacy skills at the library, and I happened to work at a library with a lot of children. They would leave school and they would come en masse to the library, and guess what they would do? Run to a computer and play Minecraft all the time. Homework? No. Minecraft? Yes. Figure out how to hack Minecraft? Yes. That's what they wanted to do. So for me, I had an influx of kids and I needed to figure out how to get them to do something, how to get them to be productive learners on the computer instead of just playing Minecraft all day. And so I went to California. I became a certified Raspberry Pi educator. I went to PyCon, I learned Python, played with some microbits, all in an effort to kind of engage the kids that came to me at the library. My kind of claim to fame, if you will, in Python world is I created a program called Code Grow, where we teach kids Python using physical computing. So the program, we take kids out into a garden, we make them go outside and touch dirt and plant plants, right? Because it's really important to me, and Olga just said this, all right, we're programming for humans, right? We're using the science, but this is something to benefit humans and real people, right? I wanted these kids to know that tech is for real life problems. You're creating a solution for a real life problem, right? And so playing Minecraft is cool, but you don't always get the connection for that, right? So these kids go out into the garden. This year we planted a pizza garden. They grew tomatoes and peppers and different toppings for their pizzas. And then we taught them how to build moisture sensors for their garden so they can monitor the moisture in their garden. We taught them how to program time-lapse cameras with Python just as a cool way to monitor their garden. And after that, we had a girl come over to me and she said, why do I have to water the garden? This water is heavy, I'm sick of doing it. We have to do it every day. And I was like, she's like, can't we make the computer do it? And I'm like, well, can we? And she's like, well, let's try, right? So we started playing with some other things, seeing if we can get the watering mechanized for the project. So it was really an inspiring project to get kids to like think through something, solve some problems, see that tech has real world attributes. There's some links to if you want to look at that program more in depth. But I'm always happy to talk about it. So I was introduced as the executive director of Peer-to-Peer University, which is a nonprofit. So in my day-to-day work, I do not develop any software. I have a really great developer at P2PU, Dirk, who's also in the Python community. But I lead the education initiatives. At Peer-to-Peer University, we believe that learning comes from people. Everyone has something in them, some experience that contributes to their learning. And that by learning together, your learning is greater, and it reflects your community and your culture and your learning, which makes for a more wholesome view of your learning overall. So, you probably realized by now, I am hardline educator up here at Python, right? PyCon always makes me nervous because there's a lot of smart people here. I know there are, right? And there's so many applications for Python, right? You can be software developer, web developer, you can do pure mathematics, right? You can do education. There's different tools for that, right? There's so many things that you can do with Python, and everyone's got their like lingo, and everybody's got their specialty, right? And then it's kind of crazy because sometimes you're like, I don't want to look silly, but that's not my wheelhouse, and I don't know what they're talking about, right? This is a list of things that I think can help you get through PyCon successfully, right? How to have a great PyCon and have a great learning experience when you're with the Python community, okay? So the first one, believe in yourself. And I know that's corny, right? But it's important. So this one is called You Know Stuff and You Do Stuff, and you don't have to know all the stuff, and you don't have to do all the stuff, right? It could be interesting when you're in these rooms to like want to talk to everybody, but you're not going to know everything, right? And it can be embarrassing to be like, I don't know that. But that's okay. One of the things I recommend, take stock of what you do now, right? That's a self-assessment. And some people are really good at those, and they're like, I'm good at math, I'm good at dancing, and I'm good at gardening. And some people are not really good at that. And if you're not good at it, get somebody else to do it. Not the stuff you have to do, but the assessment part. Ask a friend what you're good at, right? Having that self-assessment, knowing what you're good at, helps you not stay in your lane, because I don't want to say you have to be segmented to something, but bring your strength to the conversation to be able to help others. What do you do about the other stuff? Look it up. I don't know what else you would expect a librarian to say to you at a conference like this, but look it up, right? In a book, my library preference, but on the internet is good too. And ask a friend or a fellow Pythonista. Python and PyCon pretty much raised me. Everything I know about Python, I learned from PyCons and people in books. Always feel comfortable to ask someone. Manage your expectations with realistic goals. This one's fun. Set a SMART goal for yourself, right? Going to one PyCon did not make me the Python programmer that was necessary for the thing that I wanted to do like a month later, right? It actually took me about 6 months to a year roughly to like get it down, to learn what I needed to learn, to actually teach people, right? So set a SMART goal for yourself. SMART stands for specific, name the thing that you want to do, right? And for me, it was learn enough Python to teach a bunch of 7-year-olds how to do a thing that they thought was cool and keep them entertained for a couple hours, right? Measurable. Make sure that your goal is something that you can actually check on, right? So if your goal is to be able to teach something, right, I could always check on that by saying, oh, these 3 kids showed up. Make sure it's achievable, right? Like I said, you're not going to take one Python lesson and then become a core developer, right? Make sure that their goal is actually achievable and realistic for your standards. And the 5th one is the thing that people overlook all the time. Make sure that your goal has a time limit, right? If you don't put a time limit on your goals or what you're trying to do, you almost never accomplish them because there is no end in sight. And if your time is too short, then you feel like a failure, right? So making sure you have SMART goals. The other thing to know about setting a goal is you should write it down or tell somebody, because that's your goalpost. That's how you keep yourself focused, right? And then you tell someone else, right? Tell other people your goals, because those people can help you. And for them to help you, they will also need to know that your goal is specific, measurable, and time-bound. It helps them help you more efficiently. Community is greater than network. And some of you might think those are the same thing. But what's better than knowing everything? Knowing people who know a lot of different cool things, right? As I told you, I'm an educator, right? And so I am learning stuff, but I have a friend who does pure mathematics. And she is also really good at the stuff that I like to do. She got a microbit for the first time when they first came out, and she immediately programmed a game. And she's like, here, Q. And I'm like, how did you do that, right? Being able to call on someone that you know who has a cool skill and the thing that you're not so good at is a great advantage. There's a caveat to that they don't mind sharing their expertise with you and others, right? You should ask first that they are willing to like share with you and be a part of your network, right? So when you talk about network, it's usually knowing a person who does a thing, right? Community is when you build with people. You share more about yourself and they share about their self. When it comes to skills, your skills are not just the thing you do on the computer, but it's also about you and what you bring. Your culture, that's your job, sometimes that's your life experience, that's your family, that's your friends. All of those things make you the great person that you are, and they will affect your work. So making those connections personal with the people that you work with or that you want to work with helps build better connections, right? Because do I call on the guy who just said he could do that thing? Or do I call my friend Javier, who I know can do that thing, and we have a good working rapport, right? Community is greater than your network. So, while you're here, make sure you talk to some new people. You probably came here with somebody, you probably know somebody sitting next to you. Talk to a stranger. That's probably not good advice for the streets, but it's great advice for PyCon. Find a stranger, introduce yourself. Think like a librarian. So this one is for people who like to mentor or who want to help somebody else, right? Think like a librarian. So in the library world, I worked at a public library, right? Not an academic library. So I was dealing with regular people who came up to me with regular everyday problems like, how do I print this? I need a USB stick. What do you need a USB stick for? So I can print this. You don't need a USB stick to print that. Right? Those are the type of engagements I had with the public, right? But the art of the reference interviews, what we call it as a library, is very important and can be very helpful to you if you're trying to mentor or help someone, right? Uh-oh. Oop. Okay. So, if you're mentoring someone, right, and someone asks you a question like, I need a USB drive, which is not helpful, right? For you, what do you ask as the person who's trying to help, right? What do you need to know? The first thing you need to know is the type of help they need, right? Do they need a quick, yes, this is red? Do they need a quick fact, right? Do they need a full article? Do they need to go back and take a basic course, right? Do they need to talk to somebody else? What's the type of help that they actually need, right? I always hate it in college and you ask a professor a question and they're like, what do you think? I'm like, no, I need an answer. I need you to tell me at least this one thing so I can progress, right? See if you can figure out what type of answer is best for their question. 2, quantity. How much help do they actually need, right? This is important for you and for them as a mentor because you need to know how much time is this gonna take, right? Do they need a quick answer where I can peek my head out the door and say, yes, you need this, good? Or do they need to come in and sit down and explain thoroughly, right? Or do I need to pull out my computer and show them, right? What is the right quantity or amount of assistance that they need? 3, what is the purpose, right? That's my USB example, right? I need a USB. Well, what do you need it for? No, you don't need it for that. That's the hard part when it comes to mentoring. Someone asks you a question, but they may not know what they don't know, right? So as a mentor, you can really be helpful to them by helping them figure out the purpose of the thing that they asked you, right? And you do that by asking open-ended questions. So how can I help you? Where did the problem start? What are you trying to achieve at the end of this thing, right? 4, what level are they on, right? Are they a novice? Are they like me who showed up to a PyCon with no Python experience? Because your answer to me might be different. Whoops. than it would be to somebody who said, I have computer science background and I don't know Python, but I know another coding language. We don't need to get on the internet again, right? And the last thing is timing. Do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 2 years? It can vary, right? You could be doing this for a long time with them, or they might need to get this done in an hour or 10 minutes, and that matters. Now, how do you do this? Step 1, be approachable. Don't be a jerk, right? And hopefully you're not a jerk if you already started this first process and you're willing to help somebody, right? But being approachable means, hey, if someone comes up and say, hey, can I ask you a question? You don't be like, no, I'm doing this right now. Maybe I'll get to you in a second. You know, even if you can't do it right then, be open, be friendly. Let them know that you are there to help. And that could be your body language, and that can be the way that you talk. Listen actively. Active listening is a skill that a lot of people do not have. So when you're actively listening, right? Have you ever had someone ask you a question and then you tell them the answer and then they say something that clearly lets you know that they weren't listening to what you said, sometimes even repeating it? Active listening. You want to make sure that you're hearing what they're saying and then following up if there's clarification needed. If they didn't say it clearly or you didn't understand, make sure that you are listening for what they're saying. 3, how do you show the evidence of active listening? Summarize or restate what they told you, right? They told you the problem, say it back to them. Make sure it's accurate. And 4, follow up. If you care, to do a follow-up, right? Give someone the instructions and then follow up with them to make sure that they either took the action or they didn't. And if they didn't, you can, wash your hands. They're not serious about it. I'm just joking. But make sure that you follow up with them. Oh, and here's my site reference as a librarian where I got this strategy forum. That's important. Cite your work. So, today is the first day of PyCon. I'm really excited for you guys to go out, make new friends, learn new things, and I'm excited to learn from all of you. When you go out today, remember, believe in yourself. Be confident. You know stuff. You do stuff. You don't have to know all the stuff or do all the stuff, right? Remember to be kind to others, ask questions, set smart goals for yourself. Your community is greater than your network. And remember to think like a librarian. Think through those questions deeply. Last but not least, as the educator I am, questions, comments, advice you have for me or that you think you might be able to get from me, that's my Twitter and my Instagram, and this is my email. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help in any way I can because PyCon really helped me get my feet wet and get started. So I'm excited to meet all of you and learn with you. I hope you guys have a great PyCon.
Thank you so much, Qumisha. As the word here, Inspira, she is a full inspiration and motivation for all the community. Please, another round of applause.
Thank you.
Qumisha.